Opposite the famous Qutub Minar of Delhi is this deep depression. Looking at it, it's hard to imagine that the city of Delhi germinated here. But water is the source of all life, and over 1,000 years ago, this reservoir was the heart of a pulsating city. Delhi is an ancient capital. Traditionally, there are 7 cities of Delhi, and at present, over 1,000 monuments belonging to these medieval settlements are battling the ravages of time. But the first city of Delhi has all but disappeared from sight. LalKot is the earliest known fortress in Delhi. It was built by Anangpal, the Tomar Rajput ruler who inhabited Delhi in the 11th century. Except for these walls, there is little else in the fort that stands above the ground. The circumference of these ramparts is nearly 3.6 kilometers. The lofty walls, bastions, and gateways are mostly damaged and covered with debris, but they still suggest that this was once an imposing sight. The shallow trench could be the remnant of a moat which once encircled the fortress and protected it. These are arrow slits. Sharp shooters always stood ready to fire a volley of arrows at any unwelcome element. The superintending archaeologist, B.R. Mani, makes his way through the dilapidated gate. It opens out to a large field. Probably the army once assembled here, or it served as a vast reception area. Today, the flat open ground is a good place to play cricket. Now, the task before the archaeologists was to locate in nearly 760,000 square meters of area the citadel complex, palace, and living quarters. All these buildings, which must have existed within the fort, but with the passage of time have been reduced to a heap of rubble. A heap of rubble in an otherwise flat area is called a mound in archaeological terms, and it almost always suggests some human activity. Archaeologists started excavating this particular site for a variety of reasons. Firstly, it was clearly an elevated area as compared to its surroundings. Secondly, a number of articles, such as pot shreds indicating human settlements, were found close to the surface. Stripping a mound to reveal what lies underneath is a job of great precision. The hillock opposite is also a mound which is yet to be excavated. The position of the site can be established clearly by these maps. LalKot is the first city of Delhi. Its relation to the other cities can be seen here. LalKot lies within the precincts of Qila Rai Pithora. The walls of Qila Rai Pithora were added by the Chauhan rulers who had succeeded the Tomars. This contour map shows the proximity of the site to the tank and its relative elevation. Living quarters can never be too far from a source of water. Evidence that a palace complex could have been nearby is found in the tank itself. Around the edge is this remnant of a wall and debris which could have belonged to the fallen structures. Much of this debris has to be cleared to reveal the clear dimensions of the tank, estimated around 50 meters in length, 50 meters wide and 14 meters deep. Excavations have exposed this surface wall. Masonry marks on these dressed and semi-dressed stones link it to the Rajput period. Steps lead down to a lime-plastered floor, but archaeologists do not study material remains in isolation. To reconstruct the past as accurately as possible, they must draw upon a number of sources. Most important are inscriptions and manuscripts. For example, Amir Khusro, the 13th century poet, speaks of the palace of Anangpal. Ain-e-Akbari mentions Qila Rai Pithora, which is none other than LalKot, as the residence of Mamluk sultans. And Ibn Battuta, a 14th century traveller, said that in 1205 AD, Qutbuddin Aibak built a palace called Qasr Safed. The job of the archaeologist is not only to draw references from these manuscripts, but also to test how much of truth is contained in them. Excavations at LalKot were bound to be momentous. It would reveal a cultural sequence with some very definite changes corresponding to a radical shift in Delhi's history. In a systematic manner, trenches 10 meters wide and 10 meters long were laid out. Archaeology is a study of stratification. The topmost layer is the latest and the bottommost the earliest. In this deepest trench at LalKot, you can see the different floor levels belonging to different cultural periods. The grid pattern is maintained and the cross-sections preserved to help archaeologists build a chronological sequence. Going from top to bottom, period 2 is the Sultanate period, and period 1 is the Rajput period, and within each period there are several phases. As we can see from this map, each layer of soil, differentiated on the basis of color and texture, corresponds to a different cultural sequence. From layer 7 downwards, we have the Rajput period, dated from the middle of the 11th century to the end of the 12th century. No definite structure belonging to this period has been brought to light. These are some of the important finds of the Rajput period. A circular copper coin with Nagari letters DV inscribed on it. On the other side is the fire altar. The other find is this beautifully carved statue of Ganesh, used for personal worship perhaps. Most interesting find is the mold used for casting Jain figures. It shows the two legs of the Tirthankara and two attendants on either side. These are some beads of semi-precious stones. From the 7th layer upwards, are the material remains of period 2 or the Sultanate period, dated end of the 12th century to the middle of the 14th century. As the superintending archaeologist B.R. Mani demonstrates, there are 4 phases in the Sultanate period. That is the wall of the 4th phase. Overriding the wall of the 3rd phase, and then phase 2 and 1. Phase 1 and 2 witnessed most hectic building activity. They belong to the period when LalKot was the seat of power.
This is the room of the early 13th century palace complex, and the structures are having lime plaster over them. The lime floor is also there, which is constructed into 2 phases. This is a tank which was originally octagonal in shape, and later on it was covered in the 2nd phase with the lime plaster. We have also found a pivot stone lying over here, which was usually used for putting the rod of the door somewhere like this.
One notable feature is that a number of decorative architectural fragments belonging to the Rajput period were reused in later structures. These pillar bases, which formed a part of the canopy, belong to some Rajput structure. Moreover, many of the traditions started here were carried forward and evolved in later architectural forms. This design on lime and plaster is then worked out on stone in Balban's tomb. With painstaking precision, every little detail is coming to light. Could this be the remains of Kushk Ferozi, Kushk Sabz, Chabutra Nasira, the palace sites of Mamluk sultans? Or is this Aibak's Qasr Safed, where Iltamish, Razia and Balban were all enthroned? Perhaps the most interesting find are these pieces of pottery. For the first time in India, there was large-scale introduction of glazed pottery, which means that suddenly food habits had changed. The Turks preferred a more liquid diet, better contained in glazed pots than in the porous redware used in the earlier period. This is a part of glazed Chinese ware, which indicates that trade with outside world was brisk. These are parts of pottery which was later indigenously produced.
रुक जैसा वैसा ही J1 से लिखिए अपनी जगह पर सब वही रहेगा 870 870 into J2 से J2 से करिए 870 J2 से 870 और J1 से जो है 155 265 हाँ अच्छा डेप्थ नाप लीजिए.
These coins are perhaps the most important clue telling us what was the state of society when the change of power from the Rajputs to the Turks was effected in Delhi. The finds reveal that much of the earlier coins were retained in circulation to avoid disturbing the economy. Every little piece tells a story. Every little piece verifies a tale. Could this be the famous lion head mentioned by Ibn Battuta? Iltutmish, he says, had one installed outside his palace, and any supplicant seeking justice could ring the bell secured by a chain around the lion's head. We are not sure. These terracotta figurines are found in the layers belonging to the Sultanate period, but they are a part of a tradition continuing from the Rajput period.
Yes, again.
This is perhaps the first time that pieces of plaster found during excavations are being preserved. These pieces of plaster, along with these pilasters which sat atop a balustrade or a canopy, give us an idea about the grandness of the Turkish structures. There is much work yet to be done. The lower layers belonging to the Rajput period have to be explored further to see how far the antiquity of the site stretches. But that has to wait when excavations begin again in October 93.